What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you guys another video, and today I'm bringing you guys a video on Beast Morphers. For those who do not know, Power Rangers Beast Morphers just released its first episode today, and I gotta tell you this much right now, it was awesome. Acting was excellent, choreography was excellent, music was fun, so many things were done well. These characters feel like they have real personalities, they have real characters, they have a purpose, they have goals, they have motivations, they did things that we haven't seen in recent years. Typically we get some of this in like smaller quantities, but it's usually a lot more of a comedic season. This had comedic moments, but it wasn't the focus. That's awesome. The action was intense, the story was good, we had unmorph fighting moments, we had some morph ones as well. Just in general, I love it. But that's my early impression. Now, as far as how things go with episode 1, Beast Unleashed, this episode in general was really good. It starts off pretty simply with us seeing that the town of Coral Harbor is about to initiate the Morph X energy into the power to power the town or the city. And what happens is that, you know, they're waiting for the mayor to confirm that this will happen and all that. And at the same time, we end up seeing that we see the base for the Grid Battle Force, which is where the Morph X energy comes from. They mention the Power Rangers a couple of times, which shows that the town does know of them. Like, it's not like it's unknown, which doesn't always happen. Plenty of times over, they have no idea who the Power Rangers are until later on in the show. They know them before they become the Power Rangers, which is important. What we do end up seeing is that we eventually go to Riptide Gym, which is this location which kind of reminds me of like Ernie's Juice Bar in a way, just because you see lifts and you see like weightlifting, and then you also see kind of like this karate setup going on. And what happens is that we actually see that Devin, the Red Ranger, is there training, and the master of the dojo or whatever is Blaze. Blaze is the character who many people know will be the villain, but there's more to him. So he ends up actually getting into a fight with him, Blaze and Devin, and the thing is that we actually get to see some really cool choreographed fighting, which is awesome. We do see Roxy and we do see Ravi. Ravi's the Blue Ranger. Roxy is a female character that's supposed to be you know, connected to Blaze and Ravi, but we'll end up learning about them later. But the choreographed fight is really cool. Eventually Devin's father comes in, and his father is the mayor, and so what happens is that his father ends up bringing him in his limo to the Grid Battle Force unit, which is where all the Morph X energy is, because he has to go to this meeting to observe what the Morph X energy is and what it's about and all that, and to make sure it's really safe and all that. At the same time, Devin wants to go in there because Devin wants to he wants to go to the battle simulator, and he wants to experience that. So what actually happens is that the mayor goes in, but at the same time, Devin goes a little further up, and he actually decides to get out. Prior to this, though, we actually get to see him taking a picture of his father's badge to get into Grid Battle Force, and that allows him access into the building. So what actually happens is that from there, the mayor goes in. He's actually met by these two characters, Ben and Betty. Ben and Betty are the comedic duo that we've been hearing about for a while. They do have their own comedic music, which is kind of similar to the Victor Monty music that we heard from Ninja Steel and Super Ninja Steel. Though it was not as, though honestly, I like their characters. These characters are actually enjoyable. Sure, the music, I mean, it is what it is, but I think I'm not complaining too much. They felt like genuinely interesting characters, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they'll be in the show. I also like the fact that it's a male and a female situation. One's a little you know, bigger, and one's a smaller character, and it's in the male and female dynamic. That's kind of nice. So that's really, really awesome. I love that aspect of it. So we see that they're trying to do a retina scan and all this other stuff. They don't really know who he is, and at the same time, Devin manages to sneak in and go into the main area, and he ends up dressing in a lab coat and heading on in. Once he heads on in, he's told to go to the morphing chamber area or whatever to bring over this cart. In the meantime, what we do end up seeing is that the mayor eventually does get to go into the building. Once inside, he's met by the Commander Shaw, and Nate. Commander Shaw is a female commander, which is something that we don't really ever get to see that often. Almost always it's male, but it's a woman, which is awesome. That makes me super happy that we're having specifically a male commander. Now, we've had things like this before, but nothing to this extent. This actually makes me very excited to see how things will work out. So, Commander Shaw. Now, as far as things go, we also get to meet Nate Silva, which is kind of a bit forced because it makes you think, well, does that, like, what is that implying? You know, Nate Silva sort of sounds like he's going to be the Silver Ranger, right? You would think that. So people were saying online it's like a red herring in a way. It's interesting. Well, actually, I believe he's supposed to be the Gold Ranger, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I believe is true. So it's just kind of fun. What we do end up seeing, and you notice how I'm smiling, because this is just really good. It was so good. We do end up learning about the Morph X energy. We learn about what it looks like. We end up seeing the weapons that they're going to use, and also the Morph X keys, the Morphers, and all that stuff. Just awesome stuff in general. I mean, it makes me so excited. We learn about who Nate is, what's his history, how he started off in Grid Battle Force, which makes me so happy that there's like real character, there's real story. We know about their origins. We know about how they became who they were, why they're into this and all that. I mean, yes, so happy about this. But at the same time, we also learned that the mayor's scared of Morphex energy because he feels like if it's used incorrectly, it could lead to real problems. And he mentions how, like other dimensions, and how there's been monsters like Rita Repulsa, Sledge, and Galvanox, which is awesome because the fact that they're even mentioning past villains means that there's continuity to past seasons of the show. You have to remember something. It's almost never done where we get to hear past villains or anything referencing past seasons referenced in a modern Power Rangers season, aside from special episodes. The fact that they specifically had the mayor mentioning those villains is like, wow. Like, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal, because that means that they're aware of the Power Rangers and they're aware of their history and their lineage, which is amazing. I mean, that makes me so happy. I mean, I am like, wow. So as far as things go in general, we do end up getting to see, at the same time we learn about Ravi and Roxy. Apparently, Ravi and Roxy are supposed to be a thing. Yeah, Ravi and Roxy are supposed to be a couple, but the thing is that they're supposed to actually both become Rangers. And the thing is that we actually get to see them in their like Battle Force outfits. And what happens is that we learn that Rangers can't date in Grid Battle Force, which is like, ooh, interesting. And I can just imagine that being a thing really interesting later down the line of the story where like they reunite and then there's some romance going on. I mean, I just think that that's going to be wonderful. I mean, this stuff just makes me excited. What we do end up seeing eventually is that, oh yeah, the mayor sees them inside those chambers. What we also do end up seeing is that Devin heads in and he actually sees all this going on. At the same time, he actually sees like the virus of Evox going into the systems, and then eventually they unleash the Beast X energy into the power of the city. And what happens is that suddenly things begin to become corrupt. And we actually get to see Evox for the first time in the computer that is releasing the energy. He says, the morphing grid will be mine. And we get to see Evox, which is really cool. Then from there, eventually they try to make the Rangers become who they are. The Rangers that are set to be Rangers are Roxy, Blaze, and Ravi. Ravi from the start was supposed to become a Ranger. We do also get to see the Yellow Ranger, that's the real Yellow Ranger, which is Zoe. But the thing is that she's actually working as kind of like a cleaning person. Like she helps out with in the laundry room. And that's something to note as well, that she's not supposed to be like this major cadet. She's supposed to be like someone that's low tier in position. So that's interesting. But eventually Devin and Zoe are together. And what happens is that Devin is put into a retention cell, and he eventually is let out after this breakout of Evox. And what happens is that Zoe and Devin head down this corridor, and they realize they have to go do something. At the same time, we see Ben and Betty that are also interested in doing something, but they fall into a dumpster, which is very reminiscent of Victor and Monty. But eventually, when Devin and Betty head into Sorry, not Devin and Betty. Sorry, Devin and Zoe head into the into where the Rangers are becoming Rangers. We end up seeing them transforming, and what happens is that with Evox taking control, he manages to turn Blaze into his new avatar form, which is what they're referring to their cybervillain forms as, is avatar form. So we actually get to see him with his avatar form helmetless, and then he puts on his helmet, but he's all glitchy. And at the same time, Roxy is also given her avatar form, though in this case we actually see her where she actually separates from her avatar, versus Blaze where we don't get to see the separation. In this case, it actually looks as if he becomes one, even though later on we know that they're actually separate. So we get to see these two avatars, and what happens is that Ravi's supposed to also become an avatar, but what happens is that Devin grabs a gun and he shoots a panel down, which actually prevents Ravi from becoming an avatar. So at that point, Ravi, Devin, and Zoe end up going into battle against the avatars of Blaze and Roxy. And what we do end up seeing is that there's a continued battle that occurs where they keep on fighting each other. And eventually, they're captured by Blaze and Roxy. But Nate comes to the scene. He ends up throwing something, he ends up knocking over a panel with a gun, and it falls and destroys their tentacles that are trapping them in place. And then at that point, Nate ends up hitting the switch to turn on the Beast X energy that will power the Rangers. And what happens is that at that point they become the three Rangers that they were supposed to become. And at this point, we end up seeing them fight as Rangers, which is awesome. First of all, each one of them has unique abilities, which is something we haven't seen in years. Having the Rangers have abilities based on animals or something. I always think back to Dino Thunder, where they gave them different dinosaur abilities based on the three main Rangers. In this case, we actually get to see that, Devin has super speed, Zoe can jump really high because she's like a jackrabbit, and Ravi has super strength, so he can throw things and that are really heavy. So he does all that, and they manage to get into a really big fight. And eventually, they find out that about the teleporter that Nate used to teleport a weapon for him, because that's something that we actually see in the episode, that he can teleport items and people to different locations of his choosing. And what he does is that in this case, he actually teleports the avatars of Roxy and Blaze to another dimension, and they pretty much realize that, okay, this is what's happening. We get to see them remove their helmets, and we see them as Rangers but helmetless. And then what happens is that the Rangers are met by Commander Shaw. We actually learn that Commander Shaw is actually Ravi's mother. So that's something to note, that the Commander is actually the Blue Ranger's mother. That's interesting. We get to learn a little bit more about Zoe and the fact that she's going to take over for Roxy for the meantime. Oh, also I forgot to mention this happens before this whole thing occurs, that we get to see a flashback of how, Ravi and Roxy were supposed to be together and all that, and they had planned this at some time in the past, but what happened was when they were becoming Rangers, they realized that they couldn't stay together, and there's this whole emotional scene in the flashback that we see from Ravi. Very cool. Love that. And just in general, it looks like they're going to become Rangers. We learn about the fact that in order for Roxy and Blaze to return back to being awake and everything, they have to destroy the avatars of them. Because in order for if their avatars are destroyed, then their real selves will awaken. But until then, their real selves will stay asleep in these special chambers that will keep them alive and breathing and healthy. But it will only keep them alive and breathing and healthy, but won't keep them awake. It's just kind of like it kind of preserves them in space so that they can at least stay alive. So all of that is good to keep in mind, and just in general, I'm really looking forward to seeing next week's episode. This was a great start. Good story, great characters. I love the villain so far. I think that this is going to be a really fun season. The tone was just enough seriousness and also silliness that it felt really organic and wonderful. It also was great to see them in a real big command center like building, something similar to Mariner Bay or the Space Patrol Delta. Like both of those kind of command centers, this is very similar to that in the sense of having very big command centers with multiple people working in several different areas. This is good. This is really what I like to see, and I think it's something that we've been needing for quite some time, is a season like this with so many interesting locations, characters, and everything like that. I'm looking forward to seeing next week's episode for sure. I'm looking forward to seeing how the show will continue from here. But yeah, very cool. So we'll keep that all in mind. I'd love to know you guys' opinions about all this and more. What did you guys think of Power Rangers Beast Morphers? Did you enjoy this first episode? Do you think it was okay? What things did you like? What things do you think could have been better? Did you enjoy some of the side characters? Did you enjoy the main characters? What are your thoughts so far? Do you like their personalities? Do you like their characters? What do you want to see more of? The main character that probably got the least focus, in my opinion, that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of was probably Zoe, but I think at the same time, it was probably just enough for this first episode, so obviously they'll continue to expand on it and do more and more and more. And also, people were worried initially that, the Red Ranger's having a father involved in the story, and this could be an issue because we've had several issues with that in the past. It doesn't seem like he's going to be as involved as it was in past seasons where he was a ranger and all that. In this case, it sort of seems like he's more of a side character that's a smaller situation. So it's really not going to be a problem. Like, people were complaining about that when that was first confirmed. This doesn't seem too bad. So just in general, leave your comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samus1, and goodbye, guys.